A second Canadian has been detained in China on accusations of harming national security. As tension continues between the two countries, it was confirmed on Thursday that Michael Spavor, a businessman, had been detained in addition to former diplomat Michael Kovrig, candidate to Chinese protests after it arrested an executive at telecoms giant Huawei at the request of the US. Meng Wanzhou has been bailed, but may face extradition for fraud. She denies violating sanctions on Iran through Huawei, its business dealings. China has threatened unspecified consequences if she is not released. So high-profile is the case that United States President Donald Trump said he could intervene if it helped to avoid a further decline in relations between the US and China, which are locked in a trade war. However, Mr. Trump is on officials' front on the idea, with US Assistant Attorney General John Demers remarking, "What we do at the Justice Department is law enforcement. We do not do trade." Michael Spavor is a businessman based in Dandong, near the Chinese border with North Korea. He has ties to the North Korean government and has met its leader Kim Jong-un many times. Ex-diplomat Michael Kovrig currently works for a think tank, the International Crisis Group (ICG), which has said it is concerned for his health and safety. He is being held officially on suspicion of engaging in activities that harm China's state security. However, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, Kang, suggested another reason, saying the ICG had not been registered as a non-governmental organization ongoing in China and therefore it was unlawful for its staff to work there. Checks by Reuters news agency did not turn up a registration for on government databases for those or social enterprises. Canadian Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland has said Mr. Kovrig's case was raised directly with Chinese officials. Canadian Foreign Ministry spokesman Guillaume Birup confirmed that Mr. Spavor had contacted them earlier in the week because he was being asked questions by Chinese authorities. One of his last Facebook posts on Sunday said he was about to travel to Seoul in South Korea, but he did not arrive on Monday as planned. Back in Seoul, I will be in Seoul from Monday the 10th for a few days for new consulting work. Yeah, and a few. End of Facebook post by Michael. As with the previous arrest, Mr. Spavor is under investigation on suspicion of engaging in activities that endanger China's national security. Mr. Spavor runs an organization called Peak to Cultural Exchange, which organizes business, culture and tourism trips to North Korea. He is a regular visitor to North Korea and regularly comments in the media on Korean issues. He is particularly well known for helping to arrange the visit by former NBA star Dennis Rodman to North Korea. In 2013, Rodman is a personal friend of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. In December, Meng Wanzhou arrested in Canadian city of Vancouver at the request of the US as part of an inquiry into alleged sanctions-busting by her company Huawei. December. Canadian former diplomat Michael Kovrig arrested in Beijing on suspicion of engaging in activities that harm China's state security. December. Meng Wanzhou released on bail but still faces the prospect of extradition to the US. 12 December. China confirms the detention of businessman Michael Spavor for activities that endanger China's national security. Saying the investigation began on 20 December, the former Canadian resident was detained in Vancouver, where she has family and property connections. She was granted bail of $10 on Tuesday, but could still be extradited to the US. The US has been investigating Huawei, one of the world's largest smartphone makers, since 2016, believing that it used a subsidiary, Skycom, to bring us manufacturing equipment and millions of dollars in transactions to Iran in violation of sanctions. The Supreme Court of British Columbia was told Ms Meng, Huawei's chief financial officer, had used Skycom between 2009 and 2014. She had allegedly tricked us banks into clearing transactions for Huawei which were in reality for Skycom. The banks thus became victim institutions of fraud. Ms Meng personally represented to those banks that Skycom and Huawei were separate, when in fact they were not separate, said Crown Attorney Zhang Jikaosi. Skycom was Huawei. Lawyers for Ms Meng told the court Huawei had already separated itself from Skycom. Ms Meng faces up to 13 years in prison in the US, if found guilty of the charges. The Canadian court heard after the detention of Mr. Kovrig. Canada said there was no explicit indication of any link to the Meng case, but China experts doubted that it was just a coincidence. By St. Shock, Canada's former ambassador to China, told Canadian broadcaster ABA, "In China, there are no coincidences. If they want to send you a message, they will send you a message." Speaking on condition of anonymity, the Western diplomat in China told Reuters news agency, "This is a political kidnapping." Asked if the detention of the two Canadians was in response to Ms Meng's arrest, China's foreign ministry spokesman described it as an operation taken by China's relevant national security authorities in accordance with the laws. Kang said Ms Meng's arrest was wrong practice, adding, "I can point out that, since the Canadian government took the wrong action at the request of the United States and took Meng Wanzhou into custody, many Chinese are wondering if their trips to Canada are safe." Warring parties in Yemen have agreed to a ceasefire for the port city of Hodeidah, principal lifeline for two-thirds of the country. They reached agreement at the end of talks in Sweden brokered by the UN, which were aimed at ending nearly 4 years of civil war. The war has caused the world its worst humanitarian crisis in recent times. Thousands of people have died in fighting, and millions have been pushed to the brink of starvation. 2 Israelis have been shot dead by a Palestinian in the occupied West Bank, the Israeli military says, amid an upsurge of attacks in the area. 1 person was also severely injured when the government fired at a bus stop. A hunt for the suspect is underway. It took place near the Ofra settlement, where a separate shooting on Sunday by a Palestinian led to the death of an Israeli newborn baby boy. Dozens of Israelis have been killed in such attacks in the past 3 years. Israel said earlier on Thursday that it had found and shot dead 2 suspected Palestinian attackers, one who they said carried out Sunday's shooting, and the other suspected of killing 2 Israelis in an attack on a factory in the West Bank settlement in October. The attackers stepped out of a car and shot at soldiers and civilians at a bus stop near Ramallah before fleeing towards the city. Our Israel Defense Forces IDF spokesperson said several people were wounded in the shooting, including one said to be in critical condition. The Israeli army said it had closed all entrances and exits to Ramallah city in a bid to find the attacker. The bus stop shooting comes just hours after Israeli security forces shot at 2 Palestinians who they said were behind 2 recent high-profile attacks in the West Bank. One of them was Salbat Houthi, 29, who was killed in an operation in a village north of Ramallah on Wednesday. According to Israeli security forces, they said he was behind a drive-by shooting in the West Bank on Sunday that left 7 Israelis wounded. Among those was a 7-month pregnant woman whose newborn baby died on Wednesday after delivery, by emergency catering. Israeli security forces also announced the end of a 2-month manhunt for Ashraf Na'awan,
23,
who was accused of an attack at a settlement industrial park on 7 October that left 2 Israelis dead and another injured. The Israeli forces said Na'awan was killed as they tried to arrest him near the West Bank city of Nablus. Palestinian militant Islamist group Hamas has said that both men were members. On Tuesday, an unnamed senior IDF official told Israeli newspaper Haaretz that Hamas was plotting more attacks than before. In a separate incident, Israeli police say a third man was shot dead in Jerusalem's Old City overnight after he wounded 2 Israeli officers in a stabbing. The identity of the attacker has not yet been revealed. Meanwhile, on Wednesday,